Hello, welcome everybody who's here. We're just giving it another minute or two for other folks that may be logging in, and then we'll be getting started. And Steve, you give me the go, and then we'll officially launch.
Yeah, we'll wait. I don't know. People sometimes have previous meetings that bump right up against it, so I'd like to give them like 1 or 2 minutes to get logged in.
Navigate Teams and get, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, because not everybody uses Teams either. You get the some are on WebEx, some are on Google, and they're trying to figure out Teams, so that's all good. Yeah, so we'll give it 1 more minute and go to 1:32, and you can start for me.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead, Steve, top time, and kick it off. Here we go. Well, everybody, my name is Frank DiLorenzo, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this with you today. We're talking on building on success, why Acumatica is the #1 ERP for construction. So excited to dive into that. But before we do, a few housekeeping items, if I may. Please, we encourage, in fact, we really hope for some good questions. Please use the Q&A button to put those questions in the system. Janet will be addressing them at the end of the session. And what I can commit to you is if we miss or can't get to a question, we'll follow up promptly with answers. So again, my name is Frank DiLorenzo, and I'm pleased to introduce our lead today, Mr. Steve Hathaway, President, Founder, CEO of CSS. Steve, take it away.
Yep. Thank you, Frank. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us for kind of an overview of Acumatica and why it is making such a big impression in the construction space. It was a big enough impression that for myself, I left my CFO role at a very large, heavy civil contractor to go work with Acumatica because I believed in the product that much and where it was going. So a little bit of background, I guess, construction software solutions. We are a gold certified Acumatica reseller, and we are a construction certified Acumatica reseller. You will notice that we don't have things like e-commerce certified. We are not e-commerce. We are not healthcare. We are only construction, which means when you talk to anybody here at Construction Software Solutions, we understand the intricacies of construction. So you won't have to be explaining that to us. Myself, as you can see, I've been around in the construction industry for 40 years. Been heavily involved with CFMA for 15. I've done any number of speaking engagements. Hopefully we get another speaking engagement at CFMA National this year. We'll see. I've done a number in the past. Still waiting to find out on that. And I am also one of the founding members of the Rocky Mountain Regional CFMA conference that we started in 2016. So with that, a little bit of an agenda for today. We're going to talk very short because we're trying to keep this down to 30 minutes, but we're trying to go through fairly quickly in terms of some industry challenges, how Acumatica, a little bit of an Acumatica overview and how it solves those issues. Then we're going to jump into the software so you can really see it. Because I'm going to guess that if you're attending this meeting, you may not have seen it, or maybe you saw it a couple of years ago and haven't seen it recently. We're not doing an extensive demo in it, but at least you'll kind of see it. So with that, some of the industry challenges. Now, this is a slide that kind of shows all these names are specific software for the construction industry. I think on this slide, there's 175 of them. But honestly, if you've been in the construction industry for any number of years, you will know that there's probably 10 times this amount of software out there that does one particular function. All these are little point solutions that does one thing or another. And on average, about 82 of them installed at any particular contractor. And you may be thinking, it's like, well, I can think of 10 systems that our company uses, but I can't think of another 72. Well, chances are, from the experience we've had working with contractors, chances are there probably are about 7 times more software than you know out there that somebody's using, that they put it on their company card, or they found a way to pay for it out of their department budget, and the general IT management within that organization doesn't even know it's there. So there's a lot of software out there. And that's part of the issue, is that in the construction industry, there's so many point solutions trying to solve specific problems that you end up with fragmented data. And the result of that fragmented data is that you can't see all the data within your organization to effectively make a business decision. There's data everywhere, but you don't have access to it because you don't even know it exists quite often. Another thing that we see, especially on legacy systems, is that a lot of the more legacy systems are hard to access. They work great in the office if you're sitting in the office, but they don't necessarily work very well from the field unless you do complex networking and VPNs and all this stuff with your data infrastructure to get these older systems to work. So because of that, the result has been that people in the field don't tend to use the same system that is being used in the office. Typically, you see them on different systems. Even if they're owned by the same company, you see that quite often, where there's a parent software company, and then they have like an office version of their software, and then they have like a field version of their software. And it's disconnected. It's not the same experience. So it creates complexities on how to get into the system, and then people don't use it as much. And then the last thing is stale data. That the data within all these systems that people have, by the time you integrate them or try to bring them together using older technology, a lot of times that data is too old by the time it gets into the office. And to make a business decision, you're looking at data that's last week's data. And the classic example of this is payroll, that people in the field are entering their time, they're entering their production, they're sending in their timesheets, and they're sending them in. Today's Wednesday, so they send them in today, and then they run payroll. That construction company runs payroll next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the reports come out on Friday. So now you're, 9 days out? So if you had a task you were doing today on a construction project, and you weren't making production and you needed to change the way things were happening, well, you don't get your data back until next week. So what good does that do you? I mean, it's too late to make a change by then. You need that data much faster to the field. And again, with fragmented data, the system access, it all kind of leads to the stale data. Now with that, I'd say there's probably 10 other things we could go through today, but only for the limitation we have on time, we're going to kind of just focus on these 3, but happy to have a longer discussion with anybody if they want to go into them later. So how does Acumatica solve this? Well, first of all, it's cloud native. It is the only system in the construction industry that was originally built on the cloud. It never existed in a different format, ever. It's always been in the cloud from the day it was first created right up till now. So all you need is a browser, a URL to get in, and you come in, you've got your dashboards, and then you've got your workspaces down the side. It also comes with a mobile app that uses the same database. It's not that the mobile app is out there connecting to one system and you have this back-end system in your office and then they synchronize. Instead, it's all one system and it's all the same. So the mobile app is looking at the same dashboards, presenting the same data. It's immediate. If I capture an expense, I'm out in the field and I capture an expense receipt with the mobile app, it is immediately available in the system for accounts payable to look at, to match up with the credit card statement when that comes in. It's there immediately. there is no delay. Now this gets a little bit into the weeds because this is one of the other things in terms of all those different data silos and the disconnected data that we were talking about at the beginning. Yeah, you're still going to have some silos no matter what system you go to, because as much as an ERP system likes to bring everything together, not everything is cost effective to put into the ERP, or maybe there's specific functionality you like in a third-party system. So there still will be some systems out there. But I would say that historically, legacy systems used to do integrations with CSV files. You used to take a file and you'd export it out of your estimating system and you'd import it into your ERP, or you'd take your timesheets out of whatever timesheet system you were using and you bring those into your ERP and you do all these export imports. Well, newer technology has been out for a while with APIs, and you can tell here within Acumatica, there is an entire section on just dealing with APIs, with webhooks and web services and endpoints, which again, for the audience we have today may not really mean much, that may be more to the IT and the technical side, but just be aware that the advantage of the API is that it's pushing and pulling data automatically. That the moment you put data into that third-party system, it's immediately available in Acumatica, or the other way around. If you put in a new project or a change order in Acumatica, it immediately flows out to that third-party system, and you're not having to do these synchronization processes. So one of the examples that people tend to use the most within construction is Procore. And Procore, the field loves them. And they're really good at doing documentation and things like that for the project and keeping the field together and the collaboration, right? They're really good at collaboration. Procore wrote an integration to Acumatica, and you can see all the data that flows back and forth and the direction it flows. And again, this is all live. So the moment I set up a project in Procore, it's immediately available in Acumatica, or the other way around. You can see the direction it flows. But again, you can write your own integrations. You can use pre-built integrations. Acumatica is really built for integrating through APIs and having that instant access to the data. So when we come back to the initial slide here on the issues we had, how does Acumatica solve them? Well, that fragmented data, fewer systems, because you can get more into the ERP, which we're going to touch on a little bit when we jump into the system here. And the system access, browser access, mobile access without needing any special software. And this one down here, unlimited user licenses, which means you may have a superintendent out in the field that needs to run one thing a month out of your ERP system. If you're paying a user license, you may not want them in there because you have to pay a user license for them to do one thing a month. Here, it's unlimited licenses. You can put all the people in it you want and never have to worry about dealing with user licenses. So you can let those superintendents in, you can let foremen in, you can let subcontractors in. Oh, you could let the owners and engineers in too if you needed to collaborate and share information with them, and you don't have to deal with any user licenses at all. And then the final thing with the stale data, with the mobile app, if you're capturing your time cards out in the field, Acumatica will calculate job costs for you that same day. Now, payroll won't be perfect because you still have to wait for payroll to be run in order for it to really dial it in. But if you put hours in and production in today, you can get job costs today. And then when you run payroll, it will dial it in a little bit more. So you might get 95% accurate today, and then the last 5% may come in when you do payroll, depending on how you set that up. But there are options to do that so that you get immediate feedback to the field and they can make business decisions in the field in terms of, do I need to change my crew? Do I need to bring in a different piece of equipment? Maybe I need to subcontract some work that we were self-performing. things like that you can make decisions on before it's too late. So one final thing that I do like to point out is that what makes Acumatica different, and one of the things that actually really intrigued me when I left my CFO role to come join the ranks of Acumatica, was one, the unlimited user access, which we talked about. But the other thing is they have this Bill of Rights, and the unlimited user access was one that I want to talk about. The other one is number 8, that you own and access your data. Now, everybody says that. Everybody says you own your data, so you can have your data. If you ever leave, you can have your data. Everybody says that. But what's different with Acumatica is, well, 2 things. First of all, Acumatica will never do anything longer than a 1-year contract. Some other reseller or some other software products will try to get you into 3-year or 5-year contracts. Acumatica doesn't believe in locking you in. If you don't like the software, they want you to quietly exit and go find something that fits you better. And along those lines, item number 8 says that you take that data with you. Okay, great. Everybody says that. But what good is the data if you don't have a system to run it? And that's where Acumatica kind of separates itself from everybody else, because if you ever leave Acumatica, not only do you get all your data, but you get a 2-user system to run that data, and the complete user interface that you had, you get that forever. So you can run that data without having to pay any more subscription fees or anything like that, and you can always take it with you and actually use it. So there, we're going to jump into the demo a little bit just to kind of highlight some of the other things that makes Acumatica kind of stand out from other ERP systems. So I'm going to log in here. And again, you can see I'm logging in just through a URL. I have my workspace that's on the side. I have the dashboard. This happens to be a dashboard for a controller. So I'm looking at things like AR overdue, AP, things like that, cash on hand. And all of these are drillable. So if I want to go in and see what my accounts receivable overdue is, I can simply click in that. It opens up a new tab within the browser, and it's going to list out all those customers that have overdue AR invoices. And then from here, I can keep clicking down and drill down further. But here I've got the customer list, and then I can drill in further. Going back to my first tab, I'm back to my controllers screen, and there's any number of dashboards, and you can certainly make your own dashboards, but as you can see, these are all different dashboards. So there's AP, AR, controller, financial flow. I'm going to go over a construction project manager dashboard because, again, this is what kind of makes Acumatica unique and well suited for construction, is that they've built out a lot of construction functionality into the system. So I've got a construction project manager dashboard. I've got change order logs down here. I've got ball and court for different tasks and activities within different projects. I've got project issues, all of which I can click into, modify, collaborate with the owners, the engineers, and it kind of keeps this in front of me. I also have some other things in terms of profitability. And I can put financial data up here. My weather connection isn't necessarily shown right now, but again, you can build your own dashboards, so you can really make this whatever you want. So with that, you also have an entire project management system. So if you're doing the documentation, RFIs, submittals, daily logs, photos, it's all kind of in that project management suite. It's really kind of meant more for the documentation side. On the financial side, there is a entire job cost component here. So I'm going to go into construction, and then from here, I'm going to go into projects. And when I go here, it's going to list out all the projects in the system, and I am going to pick this hotel project. And it brings up your homepage for this project. So again, based on security, right now, you're seeing everything. So you aren't going to show all of this to all your users, because a lot of this is setup information for how you set up the original project at the beginning. But we're going to touch on some of these tabs through here, through the middle. And really here, you'd probably set security so that project managers see the revenue budget. And here's my schedule of values. Here's my budgeted amount, my change orders, how much I'm invoicing. I can add and delete columns if I want more there. I have my cost budget with all my cost codes, and then my labor, my subcontractors, material, all those cost categories or account groups, as Acumatica calls it. And together, that gives you basically a P&L. So there's this basically profit loss statement for your project. So you got your revenue, and then you've got your cost categories down below, account groups. And again, you've got original budgeted amount. You've got change orders, budgeted change order amounts. You've got commitments. So if you're doing subcontracts and purchase orders, you've got commitments, what your actual cost is, you've got variance, and then all of this you can modify too. So if you want to add more columns, you can add more columns. You can do different calculations. You can really make it whatever you need. Again, I'm still in this hotel project. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still in this same project, but I've gone now from my revenue and my cost and my balances over to my commitments. So here I've got all my subcontracts, my purchase orders. You can see the subcontracts have little pieces of paper with paper clips on them. And when I open that up, I can get to the actual subcontract document itself. And that's throughout the system. You'll see those paper clips everywhere. But there I've got the subcontracts. Would have purchase orders, owner billings. All the owner billings are here. On this side, I've got the actual accounts receivable owner billings. I can determine if they've been paid. So as a project manager, I can see the status of those payment applications. On the left-hand side over here, I've got those pro forma invoices, if you will, the pencil copies, as people call them, where I can come in, and here's my schedule of values, and of course, I can generate my AIA report directly from there as well. So I've got my AIA 702 and my 703 directly out of the system. I don't need to do that in a separate system. So really, as you can tell, this project homepage is really kind of contains everything. So not only does it have my owner billings and my cost information, but it's got my change orders, it's got change requests. Now we start getting, as we go a little bit further to the right, you're starting to see things like unions. So yeah, Acumatica fully supports union. It supports reciprocity between unions. It does certified payrolls, all that stuff. So you'll be well suited there. I mean, again, that construction functionality that you would tend to expect. And you can see these tabs keep on going, but I run out of room. The other one that I did want to talk about a little bit, though, is compliance, because it is tracking the compliance for all your subcontractors and making sure that their information is up to date in terms of general liability insurance, certified payrolls, things like that. So that's kind of the project management and job cost. Like I said, there is payroll and compliance in there as well. We aren't going to go into it because we don't have a whole lot of time, but there is payroll, as you can see coming through here, unions, certified, all of that's in here. You can choose to do payroll inside. There are also any number of third-party systems that connect through the API that also do payroll, which actually post it down to the individual job cost code and cost category or account group. So you can really use either one at that point, whichever fits you best. So again, it goes back to the Acumatica integration model where they want to integrate with others. Financial management, fixed assets, inventory. So on the finance side, again, just looking at menus, but you've got balance sheets, profit loss statements. You can do consolidated. You can break those out by company. If I go up here, you can see that we have multiple companies. There's 3 different companies: Iron Peak Construction, Iron Peak Equipment, and Summit Builders. There's 3 different companies, and 2 of these have different divisions within them. So you can get profit loss statements that match that structure and you can click through it and immediately change the P&L or the balance sheet to any one of those and also consolidate it. So that you can really kind of go unlimited on. Fixed assets is another item in there. If you are a construction company with a lot of heavy equipment, there's an entire module for fixed assets for tracking that depreciation and posting that into your general ledger. I would say too, we've had a fair amount of success with companies that have a lot of heavy equipment, sometimes have a lot of loans, and there's an entire module just for tracking loans and making sure that those post right and getting the amortization schedules in, and every month when you make payments, making those payments making those entries into the general ledger. Compliance, inventory. So inventory is kind of a big thing. If you manufacture anything and then send it out. We also see with a lot of electrical contractors where sometimes they have a fair amount of inventory, but there's an entire warehouse management system within it, and you can barcode your or RFID tag your inventory, and they've got scanners that go around in the warehouses to do inventory, and it does kitting and things like that to take kits of parts and build another part for assemblies if you're going to like prefab something and then send it out. That's certainly in there as well. And then finally, the opportunities. So it's got a complete CRM system in here as well, where you can track opportunities. So maybe projects that are out there 6 months. Them over to an actual project when you're ready. So you can set up the opportunity. You may put out some bids on it. Now the estimating is done elsewhere, but you may track that bid in Acumatica, and then when it becomes a project, to have that automatically move over to the construction side. So again, we were really trying to keep this within 30 minutes. So we're going to jump back to the slides here and kind of wrap it up. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, I don't know, are there questions out there, Janet? I haven't looked up lately.
Steve,
We should try to address
we have
those.
one question from Jay here.
Okay.
Yeah, he's asking like, does it route AP sub invoices to PMs for approval to pay?
Yeah.
Does it have multiple levels? Yeah.
Does it route AP subcontractor invoices to project managers for approval? Yes, it does. Does it have multiple levels? Yes, it does. So there's an entire workflow engine inside Acumatica. So it's not really an AP workflow. It's just a workflow engine that you can kind of use anywhere, that you can set up. One of the functions that people set it up for is that AP invoice routing and approval, multiple levels based on any type of criteria you want, based on dollar value of the invoice, maybe the vendor, maybe the project it's on, all of that. But the other thing with that routing and approval is that not only can you use it for AP, but you can use it anywhere. So a lot of companies also use it for like a project setup, because as you know, there's a lot of different pieces that come together when you're first creating a project sometimes, and that you can assign a workflow to that, build a workflow for how do you set up a project? How do you onboard new employees? How do you enter accounts payable? I mean, you can do workflows for that. You could do workflow approvals for general ledger entries. I mean, you can really use that engine anywhere. So sorry for the very long answer, but you will notice that I get excited. Did we have any other questions, Shannon, or was that it?
That's it. We don't have any questions.
Okay. Then we'll turn it back to you, Frank.
Thank you,
Another
Steve.
one question. I'm sorry, Steve. Just now, Jay sent a question. What is the high-level pricing for the system? How is that determined if unlimited user?
Yeah, so it's unlimited users. So kind of a price range. And I would say the absolute bare bones, just kind of finance job cost system for construction, like Bare, you're looking at probably 20,000 a year subscription. So 20,000 annually. And then depending on what modules, if you get inventory and warehouse management and fixed assets and you start adding all these modules, it adds to it, right? But on the high end, I have never seen an Acumatica system go over $100,000 for the largest of contractors. And again, it's unlimited users. So it's not a user base, it's more what functionality did they require, and what were they trying to integrate it to, if they needed like that Procore integration or stuff like that, because that all adds incrementally cost, but it's really based on functionality. So it's kind of a big range, but anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000. So I'd say on average, most of them that we've been doing are probably in the 40,000. So if that gives you an idea.
Good question. Good question. Janet, did you see any others before I turn to wrap up?
None so far. Frank, go ahead.
Okay. So first, this is recorded, just so you know. This will be available if anybody would like to view it afterwards. And secondly, a lot of times you think of questions after the fact. One thing I know, I've worked with Steve longer than most of you have probably been alive, so I won't say the years, but if you have any questions on Acumatica, I know Steve does get passionate about it. I know that from working with him. Reach out. He will address your questions quickly. And Steve, great job covering a lot in a short time. There's so much in Acumatica. I'm excited to see where this is going to go. So great job. And everybody on the call, I hope you got at least one good takeaway. Reach out with any questions, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right.